Good evening, everybody, and welcome. We're so happy to have you all here. My name is Zara Jamal, and I'm the Senior Research Associate at the Center for the Study of Gender and Sexuality and the Department of Political Science with affiliation in anthropology here at the University of Chicago. I'm leading an initiative this academic year called Civil Islam, and today's event, entitled Liberty versus License, the Anti-Islam Video and Responsible Global Citizenship, kicks off our initiative. The panel today is sponsored by the Center for the Study of Gender and Sexuality and the Office of Spiritual Life at Rockefeller Chapel, both here at the University of Chicago. And I'd like to express my deep gratitude to both entities, as well as to Dean Davenport, Assistant Dean Shaw in the back, Director Linda Zerilli, also Sarah Tui and Gina Olson, who couldn't make it here today, for putting this event together and all of their support. We're going to be recording the panel today, and that's with support from the Center for the Study of Race, Culture, and Politics. So thank you, Catherine, for recording for us. A link to the video of this event will be made available in coming weeks at gendersexuality.uchicago.edu and also at spirit.uchicago.edu. Before I turn to the teach-in, I want to spend a moment to contextualize its necessity and importance as part of this broader initiative called Civil Islam. The purpose of this initiative is to promote critical dialogue about and understanding of Islam and to serve the needs of a growing Muslim student body. With 6 to 8 million Muslims in America and record numbers involved in civic service, the need to understand and engage this population in the face of increasing distrust and even hostility towards Islam is crucial. Indeed, although some 90% of Americans agree that religious freedom should be guaranteed to all citizens, 47% of Americans say that Islamic values are at odds with American values. 50% are uncomfortable with public acts of demonstrating one's Muslim identity, like growing a beard, wearing a veil, praying outside. Some 30% of voters do not believe that Muslims should be eligible to sit on the U.S. Supreme Court or run for president. This is curious given that 62% of Americans say that they've never actually met a Muslim. The impacts of such ignorance, however, are stark. 55% of American Muslims believe that their life has become more difficult since 9/11, and although American Muslims constitute only 2% of the workforce, they comprise 25% of workplace discrimination claims on the basis of religion. Bullying of American Muslim youth of all ages is also on the rise, as are growing rates of depression and isolationism among this population. Or closer to home, the surveillance of Muslim university students by government agencies has surfaced in recent months as a matter for public concern, and whose effects on Muslims' educational experience and psychosocial profiles remains to be seen. While the Bush and Obama administrations have highlighted Islam as a faith of peace and Muslims in America as peaceful citizens, laws and policies passed and supported under their administrations over charitable giving, wiretapping, surveillance, involuntary registration of men from Muslim-majority countries, and so on, illustrates the ambiguous place of Muslims in America. The opportunity before us, therefore, is to engage and learn from this segment, not simply as contributing citizens and foreign nationals vital to the national social fabric, but also as Muslim civic leaders who could support their homelands in the crucial political transition to more tolerant Islamic democracies abroad. Because women are central to the public image and religious and cultural expressions of Islam in America and abroad, and because the roles of Muslim women are generally limited in religious leadership, but expansive in civic leadership, the Center for the Study of Gender and Sexuality is well positioned to lead this Civil Islam initiative. We'll therefore be hosting a series of events this year in collaboration with other units on campus. For example, we have one on the anti-Sharia movement on October 31st, diverse interpretations of Islam by hearing from a range of American Muslim men and women thought leaders on November 1st, and then next term we'll be doing a couple of events, one on political Islam and another by a Hollywood screenwriter and novelist. Each of these events will be publicized in coming weeks, so please do stay tuned. And now for the teach-in. As many of you know, a low-budget video denigrating Prophet Muhammad has sparked a range of reactions globally, from discussion and debate to protest, riots, and violence. Today we'll be hearing more about these events in the Middle East and beyond, with a keen sensitivity to the complex religious, cultural, political, historical, and legal dimensions therein. We have with us an esteemed panel of faculty from the University of Chicago to illuminate these knotty issues for us. First, we'll have Fred Donner, Professor of Near Eastern History and Director of the Center for Middle Eastern Studies, who has published extensively on issues of Islamic social history and Islamic law, and he will help frame for us the content, intent, and reception of the anti-Islam video called The Innocence of Muslims. He'll then discuss the role that Prophet Muhammad holds for Muslims that elicits impassioned responses. Next, we'll have Iza Hussin, Assistant Professor of Political Science on the college, whose research covers the mobility of law and the politics of Islamic law in contemporary and colonial periods in Asia and the Middle East. She will tell us about the range of responses to the video in South Asia and the Middle East, and the role of U.S. foreign policy in the region that has shaped these responses, or not. And if there's time, she'll explain some of the things the next President of the United States might consider for a foreign policy agenda in the region. We will then hear from Michael Sells, Barrows Professor of the History and Literature of Islam and Professor of Comparative Literature, who has published a rich compendium of works on the Quran, Islamic love poetry, comparative mystical literature, and on religion and violence. Mike will highlight the ways in which extremist Muslims' responses take the limelight and marginalize values of tolerance and pluralism espoused in the Quran and embodied by many Muslims around the world. Lastly, we will hear from Aziz Huq, who will be joining us after a meeting. He is an assistant professor of law, and his impressive list of publications cover national security, counterterrorism, human rights, and comparative constitutional law. Aziz will discuss free speech issues in a global world, and whether in the face of calls to condemn violence, there should also be limits to free speech, and when it causes offense to others in an interconnected world of global citizenship, however that may be conceived. We'll then open the floor to questions that you may have for our panelists and have a light reception afterwards. Please join me in welcoming our speakers. Thank you.